Hi everybody, Kat from Creative Crafts, and today's video is going to be making a kitchen decoration out of cement. If you want to know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, watch further. So everybody, what I'm going to do is today I'm going to make a coffee cup decoration out of cement. The things you're going to need for this, you're going to need, of course, the form. If you can get a silicone form of a coffee cup, just for decoration so you can stand it up like this, great. But if you're going to only use it one time, I suggest just to do it this way. I have how thick I want it. You know, depends on how thick you want your cup. I want to have it pretty thick because of the fact that I want it to be standing, and if you make it too thin, it could always flop over if you don't make it correct. So what you're going to need is cardboard, something like this, but you can still make the form yourself. You're going to need some kind of a wire, not very flimsy, but a good sturdy one. You're going to need some clear tape, packing tape most likely. Of course, you're going to need cement because I'm going to make it out of cement. You're going to need a spoon, something that you're never going to use again for eating. And the same thing goes for your bowl or things that you use to mix the cement in. Make sure that you're never going to use it for food again. These are the things you're going to need. I don't need paint because I'm going to leave it the color of the cement that it is. The next thing you're going to need is sandpaper, because once it dries, the cement, you're going to need to sand it down to how you want it to look. So the first step coming up. First step is, of course, you're going to need to make the form. I don't know if you can see the writing. I made a form of the cup that I want. You can make a long skinny one, top one, whatever house size you want. Mine is going to only be like this. It's going to be a small form. I don't want to make it too big. And I did this. So when I did that, now what I'm going to do is cut out that form in certain areas. And this is where the bottom is going to be. So I think I would suggest that what you could do is, I'm going to need a knife. The knife I can reuse. I don't want to cut it through, because I just want to be able to bend it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the top part so that it's easy to bend. So, and then I'm going to cut this part down. Or maybe lift this a little bit higher so maybe you can see better what I'm doing. There you go. So now that I got this here, I do want to get rid of this part here, these two sides here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this right off. I don't need these sides right now. This is just my suggestion. You don't have to do it this way. You can do it any way you want. And so now what you can do is, we want to try to make this as round as possible, this area. So what you can do, I suggest, to make it more round, is first bend it like this, so that it kind of gets like a rounded form. That's what you want, and that's how you can do this. So the next step is cutting out the form of my cup that I need. So let's do that. And try to make sure that it's precise on top. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can sand it down later. So now what you need to do is do the same thing for this side. Roll it up so that you get the paper or cardboard here like rounded. It's the best bet for you to do, and it makes it a little bit more easier to work with. And there you go. So now what we need is, of course, is the tape now. Don't be cheap with the tape. I do suggest that you put as much as you can on it. So that the tape holds good when you put the cement in, so it doesn't go through. The first step you need to do is, of course, you see this area here. If you have something like this, you need to cover that right away. So what you're going to do is get your tape. Make sure that there's no wrinkles in it. And you're going to go around the whole thing like that. So that tape is no good, so we can throw that out. So, and now, once you're done with this part, you have that covered. You're going to cover this whole thing with tape on the outside and on the inside. But the inside you have to be extra careful because that's where you're going to put the cement in, and then you're going to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. So now what I'm going to do is now take some small pieces of tape and just make my form that I need here, like you see. Make sure that it's directly on the sides. And then you take your tape. Like on the outside, you don't have to worry about the folds because you're not going to get any marks from the outside. And this is how you're going to do it. You're going to put your sides with the tape all the way around the whole thing, and make sure that it's taped well. So now I want to cut this part out before I finish anything else. I should have done that before, but I can just take my thing in it, my thing. Scissors.
Ja, nee, das ist schon klar, aber du siehst ja dann nicht mehr, welche Funktion da extra noch da drauf ist. Ne? Am besten machst du ein Foto, damit du weißt, welche Taste das ist. Aber da gibt es auch eine Software, die kannst du eigentlich nicht schreiben. Ja, du hast da so ein Zahldrehgedöns, alle Farben. Im Endeffekt ist es cool.
So, that piece out. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but right now we're going to put the sides on here, and then we're going to fill the back with tape, and then the whole thing in the front. The front has to be smooth. If you don't get it perfectly smooth, it's fine. You can still sand it down when it's dried. So what I want to see is if I can try to find some pieces for, like with the curved area, like I said, you take the cardboard and you curl it. That helps it so that you don't have too much of a bend, you know. And then you just do this, and then you have your curl here, like you see. You can, like I said before, you can make any kind of decorations for this. And then you do this. Make sure you have it perfectly straight up. I will do that now before I put the sides in. And then we can work with this. You're going to need to make very thin pieces of tape first, and you're gonna need to stick it in here in the area that you need the most, and then you stick your tape on it on the piece that you're putting in first, and then you tape it to the bottom of the piece here. I also have a video of when I made my letters. I also made letters out of cement. And then I also made one with paper mache. But I rather have it with cement because it lasts longer and it's more stable. And then you just keep going around until you get the whole thing. And like I said, you have to make sure later you form the thing so that you can see that it looks like a coffee cup when you're done. So everybody, as you can see, I made my form. I think it looks pretty good. I made the bottom perfectly flat so that you can stand it up like this on my coffee section that I have, which I'm making a video about that. And now that I'm done with this, we have to, well, if you want to do this too, you need to tape all the outside very well, all the bottom too, so that it makes it a little bit more stable. Then I also will take tape and try to make it as flat as possible on the inside everywhere, so that when I put the cement in, it doesn't make the cardboard soggy. Because if you don't do that, it will make the cardboard soggy. So make sure that you cover in the inside. You can use saran wrap if you want. Put some saran wrap in it if that's how you want to do it. But I will just take some tape in there and it'll be much easier, especially in this area. I'm going to try to use some small pieces of tape, put it all around, and try to be as perfect as possible. You can put the tape on the sides of the paper before you tape everything together if you want, to make it easier, which I just realized that you could do that too. So now I will take tape and go around this whole thing on the inside and the outside, and then the next step will be mixing the cement. So everybody, as you can see, I did that. I put tape all around both sides, inside and out. I try to get it the best as I can around these sides. I should have taped it before I put the sides, before I taped it onto the form. But that's no problem. You can do, that'd be easier if you did that first. But I made it a little bit more difficult for me, like I always do. So now the form is done. Now we need to make the cement. So that is the next step. So I forgot, well, I didn't forget, I was going to tell you after we make the cement, but the reason why you need to get the wire, I have this light, very thin wire. If you want, if you can, I have this thin wire, and if you want to, you can get a thicker wire, but I'm trying to make it thicker by, you know, twisting it together like this. And I will do this to all the wires, and what you can do is make a form with the wire. The reason why you have the wire and you're going to put it inside here, after you pour a little bit of cement in first on the bottom, then you stick the wire form inside. It helps that it doesn't, that the form does not crack. That's why you have this, the cement. And the same thing goes for when they put cement for the floors. They use these big wires inside it, and then they pour the cement. That helps it so it does not crack. So, like I said, what you want to do is make a form. Make sure it doesn't hit the sides. Make sure it's like in the middle exactly. And especially try to make a good amount. Try to make something that sits directly on there good. On where the handle is. So it doesn't crack off. So what I want to do is, like I show here, just, if you want, just take the wire and wrap it around You can do it triple if you want after you finish doing it this way. So everybody, as you can see, here's what I was talking about. Don't need to be perfect. I just did this so that it helps so that it doesn't crack. Because over time, when you have nothing in there for air bubbles or something, this protects it so that it doesn't crack. And like I said, I don't think I really need to put one here, but I will anyway put one here so that it still protects it somehow. I may end up connecting it so that there's, you know, here there's still something connected to it. So I will debate about that first, how I'm going to do it. But first now I got to do the cement. We're going to make the cement. I do suggest that you make, if you're going to use this in the kitchen or near water or outside, get waterproof cement, which I have here. And it's universal cement. But like I said, it's once it's hard, it's waterproof. It shouldn't ruin or anything. So, and I do suggest that you follow the instructions how to make it, because if you put too much water, it's not going to work out correct. It will chip or be very brittle. Or what you could also do is, if you make it a little bit thicker, it's okay. But try to follow the instructions on the paper on your box here. You can use plaster of Paris if you want it white, but you can. I suggest that you use cement. Cement is sturdier. Plaster of Paris, if you don't do it correctly, it'd be very brittle, and it's not very. You can't really work with it well. If you want to have some kind of a design on your cup, like a print on it, what you could do is you get let me show you 1 second. So if you want to have like a print on your cup, you can, I'm going to try to use this and see what happens. I'm going to put this inside here first and see what happens. This is the only thing I can show. It may end up having the form here, but what you could do is the side you can sand down so it's smooth, and the rest you can leave. I want to see if the imprint is actually going to come in. I'm sure it's going to be there. So I'm going to leave this in here. This is just a test for me. If it works out, it's great. So I'm going to leave that in here. You can use any kind of form as long as it fits inside. I have this hot one, but I'm going to use this one here. So now I'm going to get some water, and then we're going to mix the cement. So when you pour in this, I suggest that you be careful, because it causes a lot of dust particles to come out. So either wear a mask or do it outside. With cement, you can also mix this stuff with sand if you want to make it a little bit sturdy. I'm just going to be very careful. You can see the smoke coming up from the sand, well, cement. You have to be really careful. Usually when you make cement, it's almost like the same amount of water as you do with the cement. Depends on how you want it. You don't want it to get it too. If it's too watery, don't worry about it. Make sure you didn't use all the cement at once. Always leave some in the bag, so when you do have it too watery, there you go, that's better. Of course, I got cement all over the place. So now I'm going to pour the rest of the cement inside. slowly at a time so I don't overdo it. Because you'll see that it'll get thick in time. I should have put something on my table. So everybody, how you want to have it usually is like a very thick pancake mixture, not a watery mixture. So this is just fine the way it is like this. You can make it a little thicker if you want, but don't make it thinner. So now what I'm going to do is, of course, I put something underneath here to protect it a little bit. I most likely will put this here underneath this too when I'm done. I'm also got this out, this little form, silicone form, that is for making a cheese cutter or form with epoxy or whatever. You can also use cement for this, with this. So what I'm going to do is dry it up pretty good. Make sure there's no water in it, because I just dusted it off and cleaned it. And if there's any cement left, I'm going to make myself a little cheese cutter. Here, because it's very thin, I don't think you need the wire. I will let you know if it breaks. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a plastic bag instead and put that here. I'm just going to do it like this, because I don't want to use anything that's going to make it look whooped. So I think this should be fine like this. All right, I got my two little things here that go in after I put cement in. So now what you want to do is, the next step is, let me put this down just a little bit further, you can see better, is I'm just going to take spoonfuls slowly at a time and pour it in. I'm not going to rush it because I don't want to make a mess. Then I'm going to spread it a little bit. Then I can go further. I'm just hoping that it falls in. Gonna need a stick or something. There you go. And then you're done. What you need to do is now wait until it dries and see what happens. The last time I did this with the, what do you call it, with the lettering, I just pushed this in. You can do it later. Don't push it in too far because you do not want that to be too deep because you don't want it to go on the other end. So what you do is, like I said, make sure you have it nice and smooth. And what you could do is also, if you want to make sure there's no bubbles, you can hit it like this if you want. Whatever you want to do. Now what you can do is just, like I said, wait for it to harden. Usually takes at least up to 24 hours to harden. And once that is done, you should be able to pull it away from the sides with no problem. And then you can peel everything off. If you can try to save this to reuse it, fine, but you don't really need to save it. Once you pull some off, you can take the scissors, cut it off, pull the sides off, and we'll see if that little print part that I put inside works. Hopefully it does. Yeah, with the wiring that I put in, the reason why you have to make sure it's thick so that it doesn't, you know, fall to the bottom. It wasn't heavy, so it should stay where I put it, and it should help protect it from cracking. It should. Unless if you want to use a thicker wire, you can do that too, which probably be even better. I just had the one I had. But let's wait until that next step, which means waiting for that to cure, harden, and then we can go to the next step, which is sanding. So everybody, I took the cement form out and it did work. As you can see, it did work with the print. Like I told you, it still has the lines of it from the print paper that I had on it. Also, because like I told you about the tape, if it's not flattened, you can see the lumps here and the indents here and here. But I think it looks unique because it's cement, and I'm going to leave it just the way it is. To protect it, what I'm going to do is I want to get some clear varnish spray, and then I want to spray it so it has a little bit of a gloss to it, or I can use Moss Posh, this Elmer's glue mixed with a little water, and then you can paint over it, and that will also make it have a little bit of a shine and protect it also. That's the only thing. I just sanded it down just in some areas. I had to use a razor to cut some of the edges off here where the cement went over the plastic piece that I had of this form. And then also in these areas here on top of the plastic there was cement, so I had to clean that off before I pulled it off. And it came out perfect. I think it looks great. You can either, if you want, you can take a marker and maybe paint the areas a different color, these flowers or whatever you have designed there. But like I said, I want to just leave it like this, and I'm going to use it as my decoration in my kitchen area for my coffee bar that I have, which I'm going to make a video about that when I start renovating that. This is the finished product, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions of what I should do with it, should I sand it, should I paint it, please comment below. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. I'd love to have you join my family, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.